You've probably heard the saying, whispered in the halls of wealth management firms and across mahogany boardroom tables, from shirt sleeves to shirt sleeves in 3 generations. It's more than just a proverb, it's a statistical reality that gets cited a lot. Research has found that 70% of wealthy families lose their fortune by the 2nd generation, and an astonishing 90% have lost it by the 3rd. The story is almost always the same. The 1st generation builds, the 2nd generation enjoys, and the 3rd generation squanders. So how have families like the Waltons, the Mars family, and the Rothschilds made their wealth last not for 3 generations, but for 5, 6, and beyond? How do they defy the natural tendency for great fortunes to just fall apart? It's because their children aren't just taught about money, they're enrolled from birth in a private, unwritten curriculum. A curriculum of legacy before lifestyle. While new money often measures success in horsepower, carats, and square footage, the old guard, the dynastic families, are playing an entirely different game. It's a game measured in generations, not fiscal quarters. Today, we're pulling back the velvet curtain to uncover the hidden lessons, the foundational pillars, and the psychological framework that separate dynastic wealth from fleeting riches. This is the private curriculum for building a 100-year plan. Section 1. The Dynastic Dilemma Beyond the 3-Generation Curse. So why does this happen? The 3-generation curse isn't a myth, it's the natural result of a fundamental misunderstanding of what wealth truly is. For most people, wealth is seen as a permission slip for a life of ease, a lifestyle. It's the ability to buy the car, the house, the vacation, to consume at a higher level. This is the new money mindset, and it's inherently self-limiting because it's focused on the individual and the present. It asks, what can this money do for me right now? It's a mindset of accumulation and display. Old money, however, operates from a profoundly different premise. Wealth isn't a permission slip for consumption, it's an instrument of duty. It's not an end point, it's a starting point. This is the core distinction between lifestyle and legacy. A lifestyle is about spending, and it's ephemeral. A legacy is about building, and it's permanent. The Vanderbilt family is the ultimate cautionary tale. Cornelius Quasi the Commodore Vanderbilt amassed one of the largest fortunes in world history in the 19th century. He was a master capitalist, a builder of shipping and railroad empires. But his focus was almost entirely on accumulation, not on creating a system for preservation or a culture of stewardship. He left his heirs little guidance on how to manage such an immense fortune. So, subsequent generations did what came naturally. They embraced the lifestyle. They built opulent mansions, threw lavish parties, and engaged in a kind of competitive consumption that became legendary. The result, by the 1970s, when 220 of the Commodore's descendants gathered for a family reunion, there was reportedly not a single millionaire among them. The great bulk of one of the greatest fortunes in American history had evaporated in less than a century. They inherited the money, but not the mindset. They were given a lifestyle, not a legacy. The Vanderbilts' failure was twofold: lack of asset diversification, and more importantly, no cohesive plan for the family's future. In contrast, dynastic families that last understand their greatest asset isn't their stock portfolio, it's their human capital and their shared purpose. They know that to beat the 3-generation curse, they must shield their children from the temptations of a lifestyle-first mentality. They teach them they are not owners of the wealth, but merely its temporary custodians. This shift in perspective is everything. It transforms money from a means of personal gratification into a tool for multi-generational impact. The private curriculum of old money is designed specifically to instill this sense of stewardship. It's a series of lessons not found in any textbook, taught through rituals, conversations, and carefully structured experiences. Let's get into the first lesson. Section 2. Lesson 1. The family as an enterprise. The first and fundamental lesson old money children learn is this: the family is not just a collection of relatives, it's an enterprise. Think of it as a long-term corporation with a mission that goes far beyond the lifespan of any single member. And in this enterprise, the kids aren't treated as passive beneficiaries waiting for a payout. They're seen as future executives, board members in training, who will one day be responsible for the whole operation. This mindset is formalized through a critical ritual, the family meeting. Far from a casual holiday get-together, these are structured, often professionally facilitated, sessions where the business of the family is discussed. From an early, age-appropriate stage, children are invited to listen and eventually to participate. They sit in on conversations about the family's balance sheet, its investment philosophy, its charitable work, and its succession plans. They might hear from the family's wealth advisors or lawyers who explain concepts like trusts and asset allocation in simple terms. The goal isn't to overwhelm them, but to demystify the mechanics of wealth and normalize the conversation around it. Money stops being a taboo subject and becomes a tangible tool that's managed with diligence and strategy.
This is where the light bulb goes off about stewardship versus ownership. New money thinks in terms of ownership. This is my money. Old money teaches stewardship. This is the family's capital, and I have a fiduciary duty to protect and grow it for those who come after me. The children learn that their role is not to spend the principal, but to live off a reasonable slice of its earnings while making sure the core asset base stays intact, or ideally grows for the next generation. A powerful way to teach this is the family bank. This is a formal system, often built around family trusts, that acts as an internal lender. When an heir needs capital for a big life event, a down payment, seed money for a business, or grad school tuition, they don't just go to a commercial bank. They prepare a formal proposal and present it to the family council. They can then borrow from the family's capital, often with a formal promissory note and a fair market interest rate. It isn't a handout, it's a structured transaction that teaches financial discipline, how to apply for a loan, and the responsibility of repayment. Crucially, it keeps the family's capital working within its own ecosystem. The Rockefeller family is the quintessential example of this family as an enterprise model. John D. Rockefeller Jr., the son of the founder, is largely credited with creating the systems that ensured the family's long-term success. After his father's death, he didn't just divide the inheritance, he set up a formal family office to professionally manage the fortune and, most importantly, to educate future generations. This office created a multi-generational vision. They started regular family meetings, a family council for governance, and even adopted a formal mission statement, which was essentially to grow the human and intellectual capital of the family. For the Rockefellers, the family's values and skills were assets just as important as their stocks. This structure provides a shared purpose that unites family members across generations, turning potential fights over inheritance into a collaborative effort to further the family enterprise. They learn they are part of something much bigger than themselves. Section 3, Lesson 2, Capital versus Cash, the Psychology of Assets. Once a child understands the family is an enterprise, the next lesson is about the fuel that powers it, the critical difference between capital and cash. In the old money curriculum, kids are taught to see the world through the lens of a balance sheet, understanding the huge difference between appreciating assets and disposable income. Cash is for lifestyle. It's what you spend on dinners, clothes, and vacations. It's fleeting. Capital, on the other hand, is for legacy. It is the engine of wealth, the stocks, bonds, real estate, and businesses that generate income and grow in value over time. The primary goal, as taught to these heirs, isn't to maximize their cash for personal spending, but to continuously build the family's capital base. They learn that true wealth isn't measured by the car in the driveway, but by the size and quality of the asset column on the family's financial statements. This mindset directly discourages showing off. Flaunting wealth is seen not just as tacky, but as strategically stupid. It signals to the world that you're a consumer, not a creator or preserver of wealth. As the saying goes, new money tries to look rich, while old money simply is rich and sees no need to advertise it. This lesson is often instilled through a surprisingly sophisticated approach to the childhood allowance. For an old money child, an allowance was rarely just free money. The Rockefellers famously had a system for their kids from a young age. An allowance was given, but it came with strict rules. The children had to keep detailed account books, tracking every penny. Furthermore, their allowance was often governed by a percentage-based system. A certain portion, say 10%, was mandated for charity, giving. Another 10% was for saving and investing, growing capital. The rest was theirs to manage for their own expenses. This simple structure, used consistently from childhood, hardwires the core principles of sound financial management. Give first, save second, live on what's left. It teaches budgeting and delayed gratification as second nature. On top of that, the concept of earning is introduced early. Nelson Rockefeller famously had to raise vegetables and rabbits to supplement his 25-cent weekly allowance. This directly connects work with reward, preventing the sense of entitlement that can poison inheritors. They learn money is the product of hard work, not something that magically appears from a trust fund. As the children get older, this education evolves. They're introduced to investing, not as a get-rich-quick scheme, but as the slow, patient process of compounding. They might be given a small investment account to manage, experiencing the real-world consequences of their decisions in a controlled environment. The goal is to remove the emotion and mystery from investing, viewing it as a disciplined, almost boring necessity, like brushing your teeth. They learn the real excitement isn't a hot stock tip, but watching a diversified portfolio compound steadily over decades. This is why gifting assets like shares in an index fund is preferred to gifting a new video game console. The console is obsolete in a few years, but a small stake in the market can multiply many times over a lifetime, a tangible lesson in the power of capital. If you're finding this peek behind the curtain of generational wealth valuable, take a moment to subscribe. We regularly break down the mindsets and strategies of the world's most successful people. Now, let's move on to a form of currency that money can't buy, yet is considered the most valuable asset of all.
Section 4, Lesson 3, The Currency of Reputation, Playing the Long Game. In the old money curriculum, after understanding the mechanics of capital, the child is taught a more nuanced and arguably more important lesson. The family's most valuable asset is not its financial capital, but its social capital. This is the currency of reputation, governed by a strict set of principles around discretion, character, and self-reliance. Kids learn an ironclad rule. It can take generations to build a name, but only seconds of poor judgment to destroy it. The cornerstone of protecting one's reputation is discretion. This is the ethos often called quiet luxury, but it runs much deeper than understated fashion. It's a strategic choice rooted in the understanding that real power is quiet. Announcing your wealth through flashy logos or loud behavior is seen as a sign of insecurity and a strategic mistake. It attracts unwanted attention from the press, from lawsuits, from people who wish the family ill. Old money believes the less people know about your private life, the more control you keep. Dinner conversations, therefore, aren't about gossip or the price of things. They revolve around ideas, art, politics, and family history, subjects that build knowledge, not fleeting social status. This focus on reputation extends to cultivating character. Traits like grace, humility, and compassion aren't just social niceties, they are essential strategic tools. Old money parents know their children will one day be the public face of the family enterprise. How they treat a waiter, how they conduct themselves in a meeting, how they respond to a crisis, all of it reflects on the family name. Etiquette is taken seriously, but it's an etiquette that goes far beyond knowing which fork to use. It is the art of making others feel respected and representing the family with a quiet dignity that inspires trust. And here's a secret that might surprise you. A key part of this training is an emphasis on solitude and self-reliance. While new money might seek constant validation on social media, old money children are taught the value of being alone. They are encouraged to spend time reading, journaling, and engaging in quiet reflection. This isn't about being antisocial, it's about building a strong inner core. The ability to comfort yourself, to think independently, and to be content without external validation is seen as the ultimate form of strength. It builds resilience and protects against the neediness for attention that leads to reputation-damaging behavior. It fosters self-mastery. Before you can be trusted with $1 billion fortune, you must first be the master of yourself. This is what creates historical confidence. The child isn't just confident because of the money, they are confident because they've been trained to be self-sufficient, disciplined, and comfortable in their own skin. They derive their worth from their character and knowledge, not their bank account. They learn that privilege is not a license for arrogance, but a profound responsibility to uphold the family's most precious asset, its good name. Section 5. Lesson 4. Philanthropy as a strategic pillar. In the modern imagination, philanthropy is often seen as just giving back. But in the private curriculum of old money, philanthropy is something far more powerful. It's not just an expense or a tax write-off, it's a central strategic pillar of legacy itself. It's the primary way a family transforms its private wealth into public, permanent influence. Old money children learn that while a business can fail and a stock market can crash, a hospital, a university, or a world-renowned museum bearing the family name can endure for centuries. This is the ultimate form of legacy building. Andrew Carnegie's Steel fortune is a historical footnote. Carnegie Hall and the thousands of libraries he endowed are living institutions that project his name into the future. The Rockefellers are remembered less for Standard Oil than for founding the University of Chicago and the Rockefeller Foundation, which has shaped global public health for over a century. Philanthropy is the tool that transforms a fortune, converting it from mere money into a lasting, positive societal legacy. More than just building a legacy, the family foundation serves as a critical training ground for the next generation. Involving heirs in the family's philanthropic work is one of the most effective ways to teach them the responsibilities of wealth. As junior board members of the family foundation, they get a safe, structured environment to learn high-stakes financial management. They learn how to read a budget, evaluate a proposal, and work collaboratively to decide where to allocate significant capital. It's a real-world MBA in stewardship. This involvement also instills the family's values in a tangible way. By directing resources towards causes they care about, be it medical research or environmental conservation, the children internalize the idea that wealth is a tool for advancing a vision for a better world. It provides an ethical framework for their inheritance, shifting their focus from what the money can buy for them to what it can do for others. This helps to prevent the sense of purposelessness that often plagues heirs. Finally, strategic philanthropy is a powerful tool for building social capital. By funding prestigious institutions and sitting on influential boards, the family secures its place within the establishment. It gains access to networks of power and information, from politics and academia to science and the arts. It's not about crassly buying influence, it's about earning a seat at the tables where important decisions are made. The lesson is clear. You can use your money to buy a yacht that will be forgotten in a decade, or you can use it to build an institution that will carry your name for a millennium. Old money teaches its children to choose the latter.
Section 6. Lesson 5. Education as lifelong cultivation. The final pillar of the old money curriculum is a broad, holistic view of education. Popular culture imagines old money education as just elite boarding schools and Ivy League universities, and while those institutions play a role, they're only one small part of a much larger process, the lifelong cultivation of the individual. The goal isn't to accumulate credentials for a career, but to build character, discipline, and a well-rounded intellect. The real education happens in the home. Parents see the home as the primary classroom.
Dinner table conversations are a key part of this curriculum. They're forums for discussing current events, history, art, and ethical dilemmas, training the children's minds to think critically. Experiences are consistently prioritized over material possessions. This is why old money children are more likely to get piano lessons, language tutors, or a trip to Florence than a new car for their 16th birthday. Activities like horseback riding, sailing, or tennis aren't just hobbies, they're tools for character development. They teach discipline, resilience, sportsmanship, and how to perform under pressure. These are cultivated traits that become part of an heir's personal capital, assets that can never be lost in a market crash. This creates what you might call cultural literacy. An old money heir is expected to be able to hold a conversation on a wide range of topics, to appreciate the arts, and to move seamlessly through different social environments. This is a form of capital that opens doors in a way that money alone cannot. A vital and often overlooked part of this education is the role of grandparents. They are the living repositories of historical confidence. By sharing stories of the family's history, of triumphs and failures, of fortunes built, lost, and rebuilt, they provide the next generation with a long-term perspective. They teach them that setbacks are inevitable and that the family has a legacy of perseverance. This connects the child to the family's multi-generational story, reinforcing their role as the next link in a long and durable chain. Education, in this sense, is not just a means to an end. It is a continuous, lifelong pursuit of becoming a more capable and resilient steward of the family's legacy. So, let's bring it all home to the shirt sleeves to shirt sleeves proverb. The reason 90% of fortunes are lost is because they're treated as windfalls to be spent on a lifestyle. The 10% that survive are those that are managed as legacies. The difference lies in the private curriculum we've explored today. It begins with Lesson 1, the family as an enterprise, training children as future stewards, not entitled beneficiaries. It continues with Lesson 2, capital versus cash, instilling a focus on growing assets rather than spending disposable income. Then comes Lesson 3, the currency of reputation, which teaches that a good name is the family's most priceless asset. This is fortified by Lesson 4, philanthropy as a strategic pillar, which transforms wealth into a tool for building permanent institutions. And finally, it's all held together by Lesson 5, education as lifelong cultivation, a commitment to building character and resilience. Together, these 5 lessons construct a powerful psychological framework. They shift a child's mindset from, "What can this money do for me?" to, "What can I do for this family and its legacy?" It is a transition from consumption to contribution, from stardom to stewardship. And while this curriculum was perfected within the world's wealthiest families, its principles are universal. Thinking long-term, prioritizing assets over consumption, building a good reputation, giving back strategically, and committing to lifelong learning. You don't need a trust fund to use this playbook. It's a blueprint for anyone, from any background, who wants to build something that lasts. It's a reminder that true wealth is not measured by what you spend in your lifetime, but by what you build that outlasts it. What is one lesson from your own family that you hope to pass down through the generations? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this analysis, be sure to like this video and subscribe for more deep dives into the strategies that build enduring success.